One thing that keeps popping up in relations between the U.S. and Russia is Russian President Vladimir Putin's desire to bring back vocal critic Bill Browder back to Russia. Now, Browder is a U.S.-born financier who has dedicated himself to fighting corruption in Russia. That was after his lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, uncovered an alleged tax fraud in Moscow and died in a Russian prison. But at the news conference after his meeting today with the U.S. President Donald Trump, Putin said that he would be willing to let U.S. investigators observe interviews with the Russians who have been indicted for election meddling if, and big if, Russians were allowed to question Browder, saying that he could be guilty of crimes in Russia. Take a listen.
They sent huge amount of money, 400 million, as a contribution to the campaign of Hillary Clinton. Well, that's their personal case. It might have been legal, the contribution itself, but the way the money was earned was illegal. So we have a solid reason to believe that some intelligence officers accompanied and guided these transactions. So we have an interest of questioning them. But we can that could be a first step, and we can also extend it.
So Vladimir Putin wants to speak with Bill Browder, but we're going to speak to him first from a location that he has asked us not to disclose, and given the events today, perhaps for good reason. Bill, thank you for joining us. I know you're joining us by phone. Were you surprised to hear your name come up again as part of the U.S.-Russian relations in today's high-profile press conference?
I wasn't surprised at all. Vladimir Putin seems to have become obsessed with me. This isn't the first time it's happened. After Canada passed the Magnitsky Act, which is the law named after my lawyer who was murdered, about a week later, Putin gave a press conference, and a Canadian university professor from Carleton University asked him about the Canadian Magnitsky Act, and Putin went into this long, angry monologue for about 5 minutes about what a terrible man I was and all the crimes that I committed. And what was most remarkable was not even the words, but the body language. Watching his forehead furrow up, he really, really is so upset with me. And he's upset because I put his money and the money of his criminal cronies at risk under the Magnitsky Act. It can be frozen. The money can be frozen, and people can lose their visas and ability to travel. And for Russian kleptocrats, that's one of the most serious consequences that can ever happen to them.
Having someone like Vladimir Putin, as you say, obsessed with you, that has to be fairly unnerving. And when you watch the U.S. president standing shoulder to shoulder with him at adjacent podiums and seeming quite chummy, and then with the suggestion that he'd like to have you return to Russia, does that cause fear?
Well, I mean, Vladimir Putin, for being such a clever and detail-oriented KGB agent, missed one very important fact, which is that for the last 29 years, I've been living in the UK, and I'm a British citizen. So Putin was negotiating with the wrong head of state. If he wanted me questioned or brought back to Russia, he should have been talking to Theresa May, not Donald Trump.
Do you feel safe in the UK? And I say that because we've had the recent poisonings that the UK have blamed on Russia, and they seem to be, well, can happen anywhere, given the small towns where they've occurred.
Well, I don't think that I'm particularly safe anywhere. I mean, I feel safe that the British government's not going to hand me over to the Russian government. I feel safe from a legal standpoint, but if they want to rub Novichok, chemical weapons on my doorknob, there's not much I can do about that. But so far I've survived, and the main reason I've survived is that there would be an absolute outrage storm if I was killed, and there would be consequences on Putin. And so he doesn't like consequences. He likes to do things quietly and subterraneously, so that he doesn't get caught. And so far, he hasn't figured out a way of killing me where he won't get caught.
Talk to me a bit about those efforts. You were recently detained by Spanish authorities on a Russian warrant.
Yeah, so one of the big tricks that they're trying is if they can get me back to Russia, if they can stick me in a Russian prison, then they can kill me in a Russian prison, and there will be no consequences. And so what Putin has been doing is going around and trying to get Interpol the International Police Organization to arrest me. And the Russians have issued now a total of 7 Interpol arrest warrants to have me arrested. The 6th one came on May 30th. I was in Madrid. I was going to be meeting with a Spanish prosecutor about Russian money laundering in Spain connected to the Magnitsky case. And I get arrested at 9:40 in the morning before my meeting with the Spanish prosecutor by the Spanish police acting on a Russian Interpol arrest warrant. Now, thankfully, I was able to tweet it out, and within 2 hours, there was just such a storm of indignation that Interpol called the Spanish police and told them to immediately release me. But, yeah, I mean, the Russians are after me, and they've got a lot of tricks up their sleeve.
Bill, what kind of security measures do you take, and how careful about where you are and when you are there and who knows where you are? How does that factor into your day-to-day?
Well, I obviously don't announce. If I were to announce on CBC my security measures, they would all be moot. But you can imagine that I have to live a life which is a lot different than the lives of other people, and I've got to be more careful with everything I do, and I am more careful with everything I do. But at the end of the day, if Vladimir Putin decides he wants to kill me and he doesn't care if he gets caught, then he'll kill me. Plain and simple.
A lot of, obviously, the world was watching the press conference in Helsinki today, and I know you were as well, and with great interest. What were your impressions when you watched the two leaders take to those podiums?
Well, actually, I wasn't watching the press conference until my phone started burning up with messages that I was being talked about. Then I did turn it on. But my impression was that there shouldn't have been a summit in the first place. Vladimir Putin is a global menace. He's out there doing the most horrible things. He's doing chemical weapons attacks in the UK. He's taking over big portions of Ukraine, killing Ukrainian civilians and soldiers. He's killing Syrian women and children. He's cheating in the Olympics. He's meddling in elections. He's just a global menace. And he's a global menace running a small country, a country with an economy the size of the state of New York. He shouldn't have been in a situation where he was put on par, head-to-head, as an equal with the most powerful man in the free world. It's just totally an inappropriate gift. And regardless of whatever happened in today's summit, and effectively nothing did happen in today's summit other than a bunch of backslapping, but even if that backslapping hadn't happened, just the fact that he was given this podium was a complete and absolute outrage, and it shouldn't have happened. And he's the big winner. Donald Trump is a huge loser in today's events.
Bill, I'm really struck by the calm in your voice. I think anyone else or many people who might be coming face to face with the reality that Vladimir Putin, as you say, is obsessed with them and might want to have them killed or at least in jail, would be more fearful. But you seem to just be at ease with this situation.
Well, I've been dealing with it for 8.5 years. You get used to it after a while, and I'm on a righteous mission. I'm on a mission to get the Magnitsky Act passed, named after my lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, who was brutally murdered in Russia 8.5 years ago. And I've been on a mission to get this act passed, which causes sanctions for human rights violators everywhere in the world. And we now have 7 countries, including the United States, Canada, the UK, 3 Baltic nations, and Gibraltar. I've got 8 more countries on deck. And I'm on a righteous mission. I'm doing something which is truly going to change the world. And however long I live, which I hope is a long time, I'm doing something which is meaningful and something profound. And that is what gives me the peace to carry on and not be scared by all these terrible threats.
Well, Bill, really appreciate your time joining us from, as we point out, an undisclosed location. But your insights into and your reaction to the press conference today have been very welcome and interesting. So thank you so much. It's Bill Browder joining us from, as I say, an undisclosed location.
Thank you.